Prediction markets are currently the hot topic in crypto. Polymarket just received $2 billion in funding, valuing the company at $8 billion from Intercontinental Exchange, owners of the New York Stock Exchange. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how I built a prediction market using a decentralized application on top of Soroban smart contracts on Stellar. Prediction markets are a classic example of the two-party problem. If you want to bet on the outcome of a binary situation, whether something is going to happen or not, you essentially need someone to take the counter side of that trade to get paid. This becomes a problem in DeFi because it's very unlikely that you're going to have the same amount of people betting on one side as the other. Polymarket gets over this hurdle by essentially running a decentralized exchange. They have a limit order book or a club, and they'll use professional market makers, I expect, that are likely contracted to them to fill up the order book and provide a fixed spread. They're essentially using market makers to take the opposite side of the trade to whatever users want to place a stake on. However, this project is a little bit different. It's not a binary outcome. With football, there's a home win, a draw, an away win. There's also other markets like first scorer and things like that, where there can be multiple outcomes. Now I wanted some kind of system in place to automate price discovery using an automated market maker type system. Now, this would be quite costly and expensive if we had to have a separate liquidity pool for every market. So the idea I came up with was inspired by the early days of synthetics, where they had a centralized liquidity pool and then they'd mint these synthetic assets. Then if you wanted to trade the synthetic assets, you'd essentially trade against that central liquidity pool. If we go back to our example, what this means is there's a central liquidity pool which holds the funds within a smart contract. Then we can create these live matches on top of that, and we can create as many of these as we want, and we don't have to provide liquidity for every single one. If someone wants to place a stake, they can go into take a position, and there's a little bit of spread and slippage applied here, so that the funds in the liquidity pool are protected, assuming that there's a diversified amount of betting and the price discovery is efficient. Let's go ahead and place this position. If we go down to my stakes, and this bottom one is the position we just put on, we've got the outcome home win. If that outcome does come true, then the settlement value will be $39. That's because the entry odds were 25 cents, so the settlement value will always be $1 for every 25 cents we put on. When we place that position, it actually moved the price slightly. We also got this cash out value for early cash out, so you can sell the position. If lots of people bet on a home win, then the entry odds are going to move down and this cash out value will go up in value. One thing to note is we have a quite high fee here for the cash out value, and that's to protect the contracts from any kind of arbitrage attack where you could kind of manipulate the price. Of course, everything is open source, so let's go ahead and jump into the code on GitHub. If you go into contracts, source, lib.rs, this is the main smart contract, and we've got some initial constants here, such as the fee for early cash out, the spread. We then got a custom data structure for the markets, got a market status enum, and another custom structure for the stake. Instead of having a constructor argument, we've got a simple initialize function, which we run after the contract's deployed. And then we've got a create market function. So we're going to pass in our admin address. So whoever deployed the contract is the only person that can create new markets. The title of the market, that's a short piece of text. The start time, odds home, odds draw, and odds away. So you're going to have to give the initial odds when you create a market, and this will give the starting prices. We're going to go through and populate the custom data structure for the market and create an instance of that market on the system. The other interesting thing is this base reserve multiplier. This allows us to manipulate the initial price discovery range. So if we increase this amount, the price will move less for the same order size. It basically allows us to manipulate the reactivity of the price for the initial users. If we scroll down some more, we've got some utility functions to update odds, archive the market, and settle the market. Update odds, the prices are going to update automatically anyway, but this allows us to do something if maybe one game got cancelled or something like that. It would avoid letting people bet on it. You'd also archive the market in that instance, to be fair. You've then also got an option to settle the market. So you pass in your admin address. Again, only the admin can do this. The market ID and the outcome, which is that enum for home, draw, away, win. It'll then go through and do the payouts. All the payouts on this is actually an internal system of credit. So we're not actually using stable coins here. A little bit further on, actually, when we provide liquidity, withdraw liquidity, you can see there's notes to, if this was going into production, you'd actually use kind of transfer from, so transfer in USDC when someone deposits and transfer it back out again from the contract. That's not set up currently, as I wanted to stay flexible and I didn't want to have to rely on third-party stable coins. If you go to Soro.market, you can essentially just deposit funds as many as you want if you just want to experiment with it at this stage. This is only deployed on testnet, of course. Another little quirk of the settle market is that it actually loops through the positions, user positions. Now, this is susceptible to a denial of service attack. If someone took out 1 million positions, then you wouldn't be able to loop through anymore. So there's a maximum amount of positions that we can put in here. I've set this currently to 1,000. We'll probably experiment with it and maybe raise it up a little bit more. That puts a limit on how many people can take a position in any particular single market, which will avoid that denial of service attack when there's just too many kind of positions to loop through and you blow up the execution limits on the blockchain network and you can't get a transaction through to settle the actual market. The other way of doing this, if you wanted an unlimited amount of people to participate, is to have a claim function, which is a separate claim function that each user has to call, and that's quite a common pattern in smart contract development. If we go down some more, we've got the deposit functions, withdrawal functions, get balance. We've got this place stake function. This is going to be the function that the user calls. We're going to pass in the user's address, the market ID that they're taking a position on, the outcome, and the amount they want to take a position for. We've got some sanity checks, and then we're going to go through and we're going to fill up that stake custom data variable with the data we've calculated. Note that we're calculating shares here rather than the USDC value. We've also taken the mid price, which is the average price between the starting price before they took the position and the final price once you've allowed for slippage of their position. So if you're placing a large order and it's actually going to move the market price, you're going to get the price directly between the price where it started and the price after your order went through. If we continue down, we've then got some getter functions to get market data, stakes. This is all going to be for the front end to display information for the users. Current odds. We then got a cash out function. This is for early cash out. So it's not the settlement function, which would be called at the end of the market. This is someone wants to kind of close their position early. And that goes through, calculates the price that they would get minus a 5% fee, and it pays them out. Let's go ahead and copy this and deploy a new instance of the contract. Let's go to SoroPG, the Soroban playground. I'm not going to copy the test files across. Compile that to WebAssembly. We've downloaded the prediction market contract. Let's deploy this to testnet. You can see this isn't my first rodeo. Let's deploy this latest one. We've got 2 transactions going through, one to deploy to WebAssembly and then one to get a contract instance. That's this code here. Open this up in a Block Explorer and have a look at the interface as well. You'll see them functions that we just looked at. And then what I'm going to do is go into app.js, which is the JavaScript for the application, and I'm going to push this out to GitHub with a new contract ID. Let's commit that and push it out. The site is actually hosted on GitHub Pages with this custom domain Soro.market. So when we push out an update, that should go out live. And if we scroll down, there's an admin section. If I refresh the page, I should get this new contract address ending in 4CS. There we go. So we can call initialize contract, that starting function. I only need to do that once. That will get the contract all set up. I'm going to provide initial liquidity of 10,000 USDC. Again, it's not actually taking any USDC. This is all on testnet. And then let's create a market. Who should we upset? England versus Scotland. Let's set a date for that market and do some odds. I'm going to use the ones provided. You'll note that these will add up to 0.99. That's intentional to create that spread amount, which will protect the liquidity pool. Let's go ahead and create this market. Then got this market here, which we can settle our archive. If we want to settle that, we can enter a number between home win, draw, away win. If we go back to the market now, let's refresh this. I'm going to need to deposit some more funds because we've got a new contract. deposit $100. And for international relations, let's go ahead and bet on a draw. So we can place an amount. Confirm the outcome. And we got a draw. We can cash this out for a 5% fee. And we've lost 50% on that trade, which is expected because of the fees we have in place. I'll really dive through some of the more interesting parts of the front-end code. If we go into docs, app.js, you can see we're setting up the config with the contract address, Soroban testnet RPC node, and the network passphrase for testnet. I'm using the Stella SDK, the JavaScript SDK for Stella here. I'm going to initialize the RPC node in the contract. And if we scroll through this, we've got this connect wallet function, and this also has the ability to create a new wallet for a user and fund it via friendbot to pay for transaction fees. And then we've got this call contract function, and this is kind of a function that you could use pretty much anywhere. You might want to just change these native to SC values. And what we're doing here is we're setting up an account using rpc.getAccount and then passing the public key. We've got some conversion functions using native to SC val to convert strings to addresses, big ints to U64, unsigned integers. We then build a transaction using the transaction builder, pass in the base fee, network passphrase, and add an operation. We pass in through the contract instance, then we're going to pass through the method name and the arguments for that instance. And we're going to build that transaction, prepare the transaction, sign it with the key pair, and then send it to the RPC node. And that's essentially how we're going to execute transactions to and from the blockchain. When we want to read data from the smart contract, we don't have to do all that. We can essentially just build up the transaction the same way, but we're going to call simulate transaction. Rather than sending a transaction, sign it, and paying a transaction fee, we can read data from the blockchain free of charge. That's a very efficient way of getting data to display within your decentralized application. When this all comes together, what you've got is a front end that's hosted on GitHub Pages. It can also be hosted on a decentralized file provider like IPFS if you want to take this a step further. And then all the backend code is hosted on the decentralized Stellar network. There's no databases you need to set up, no servers, no cloud services. You can essentially create a Web3 application like this and have it run and the logic executed within a decentralized blockchain environment. All the code that you've seen here today is open source on GitHub, and there's links to that in the description, along with a full tutorial and additional resources for developers looking to build on Stellar.